How's everyone doing today? Today's project is a Craftsman push mower. It's supposed to have electric start. First one I worked on these. And it's a self-propel. And it's in pretty rough shape, but I just got it for free. So we're going to take a look at it. It's missing the top cover here. There's a bit of plastic busted off there. And as you can see, the blade's got a bit of a bend to it. The guy says it still runs, he says, but I'm not sure how it runs because this is supposed to be a counterweight. And I suspect with hitting something this badly, that is going to probably have a sheared flywheel key, so I'm expecting that. Looks like we got a problem here with this starter recoil housing. So I probably have another one of those. Probably have another blade as well. So I mean, overall, even if it's a parts mower, free is free. And let's see, electric start. I assume battery is dead. Oh well, that wouldn't work anyways. So I'm trying to rig up some tape to fix that lead. That's not going to work. So yeah, guys, let's dive into her and see what we can do. So first thing I'm going to do is, I got to try and see if this thing starts, as Buddy says. So before you ever start a mower, you're going to want to make sure it has this blade, because it, like I said, it does act as a counterweight. So this isn't the right size blade, but don't have any long enough. This is maybe an inch short, too short, half inch on either end. So if I get this thing running, I will put a brand new blade on it, because I don't have a used one that's that size. But this will be good enough for now, just to test it. Alright guys, now I'm going to flip her back over. Alright, so test this thing if it will start. I am going to go to that. Talk about lack of maintenance. This thing was probably new and probably never had anything done to it, and this happens all the time. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to spray some starter fluid in the carburetor, and I'm going to give it a couple pulls and see if she'll sputter at all. There's another problem. The starter is not engaging the starter cup. So I'm going to have to dive deeper into this before I can even see if it's going to fire. Just clamp off this fuel line. If there is any fuel in there. A little bit. This was a good quality mower, guys. What a shame that yeah, all of the screws that are holding the fuel tank together to the starter recoil are all sheared off. And there's a 3/8 underneath here with a spacer. was finally able to get that last bolt out. Alright, so I'm curious to see what's underneath here. So the starter pawls, your dogs. So these attach inside here, and when you pull, they actually spring out, and then they catch on the inside of this cup, and then that's what turns the whole thing over. So I'm gonna have to get a new starter. These look like they're actually broken, maybe not, but it'll be easier probably just to get a new starter recoil. So that'll be my next step. Alright guys, so I got you on the bench here now. So what I got going on is this is the starter recoil that I took off of this machine, and underneath this here is where those dogs go, or pawls, and they are broken off. So this one's unusable. This one, and it's all tore up as well. This one, on the other hand, came off of a good machine. It's off of a 650 series. This one's off of a 725 series, but it's pretty much, well, not pretty much, it is exactly identical. So this one has actually good pawls and dogs on it there. So the problem with this one is that the starter rope is broken on it, and in fact there is no rope in it right now at this point. So I've taken the rope out of this guy, and what I'm going to do, I got the pull rope here, is I'm going to show you guys how to install the pull rope on a starter recoil for one of these Briggs & Stratton engines. Okay, so before we can actually get started installing this rope, I'm going to have to do a little bit of surgery to this starter recoil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a regular old carpenter wood nail, spiral nail, any old nail will do. And I'm going to heat up the end of this guy right here with this torch, and that's going to get it nice and hot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn a hole, or a sort of a half moon, into the edge of this plastic recoil. And you'll see why here in a second, why that's important. So I'll get this guy nice and hot. Nice and red, floating. So this is plastic, so it doesn't have to be super hot, but and just be careful, guys. Okay, this is open flame. Just make sure you don't have any fuel kicking around. So I'm going to try and do this fast before this cools down. Alright, so that should work. I'll give you a bit of a close-up as to what I got going on here. So now, what you can see here is there's basically a semicircle or a half circle or something like that right here in the edge of this plastic recoil, and that's going to serve a pretty substantial purpose to make life easy when we're trying to put this back in. Now, what I've already done is I just took my lighter and I burnt the edge of this starter rope, and then just be careful, it's hot. Twist that. Now what you want to do is line up the hole, this hole, with the hole where it comes in on this side. So get those two fairly lined up. Got to be fairly close. This could be a tricky part, to try and get these two to line up. There we go. As you can see, and just pull it through. Now, just want to make a knot on the end of this rope, and it should be fairly tight. Usually I just grab a pair of pliers, just try and tighten that up as tight as I can get it, and we're going to pull it through. Now, this is where that little thing's going to come in handy that we just put in there. I'm just going to grab a pick here. I'm going to try and grab my rope. Sometimes this is go. Alright, so you need quite a bit of slack for this. So what we're going to do here is we're going to rewind this spring inside the recoil. But the reason why this is important to have that little cutout, that little notch, is that now I can put the rope in there, and because there's no space in between the plastic and the outer metal edge housing, so you need that little space there to be able to rewind this guy. So that's 4 times. I'm rewinding it until it's 5 times. I'm going to rewind it till it's pretty much as tight as it will go, and then back it off 1 turn. So that's 6 times. 7. And the rope will get a little bit twisted, but that's why you want to have a lot of slack here. And it's getting pretty tight now. 8. Alright, so that's it. You don't want to be too tight, so I backed it off by 1 turn. And then I'm going to pull out all the slack, line it up with the hole again, and then let the recoil pull the rope back in. And that's it. There you have it. Freshly installed rope on your recoil. So we're going to go ahead and give this a whirl. Put this guy back on. Okay, well, turns out apparently this recoil is not the same. We might be able to modify it though. There's a cutout here for the auto choke, no cutout here. So I might see if I can cut this one out to match this guy. Alright guys, let me just show you what I've done. So I plan to modify this one to match this one. So what I've done is I've marked a few spots just with pencil, so it kind of matches the profile of this one. It doesn't have to be perfect. So cut this little piece out, and then this whole piece will come out as well. So I plan to cut that out, and hopefully I can turn this guy into this guy. So that's the plan. We'll see. Alright, so here we go, guys. Alright guys, so obviously there's lots of cleanup work to do here, but when I get that all cleaned up, take down all these edges and stuff, I'll come back and show the finished product. Alright guys, so after some measuring, cutting, filing, pretty happy with how it turned out, and we're going to go test fit it on the machine now, see if our handiwork actually did work. Alright, moment of truth. Alright, looks pretty good. Clears the starter. Auto choke still works. Eesh, pretty happy with that. Alright, so let's get this guy back together and see if it will fire up for us. Alright guys, so I probably have an hour's worth of work already into this thing, and I haven't even pulled the cord over yet. Well, I pulled it over, but this is a good quality mower, so I'm going to put in some extra time trying to get this thing running. Plus my whole objective is to save stuff from the landfill anyways. Alright, so I got some fluid in there, got the spark plugged in. Let's see if this guy will pop. Alright, so bonus. As you can see, it runs pretty rough, but I'm going to end up cleaning up the carburetor. I do that on all my machines anyway. This thing needs a really bad cleaning. Maybe even break out the power washer for the first time this year. Power wash this thing before we get too far into it. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy about that. I didn't think it was going to go at first, but I think I put too much fluid in there, so that's probably why I flooded it just a little bit at the beginning. Alright, so let's see where we'll go from here. Alright guys, let me give you a quick update where we're at with this guy. overnight I did a little bit of research on this mower, and I charged this battery, or tried to charge it anyways, and this battery is pooched. It won't accept the charge. The other thing I learned is that the mower itself does not have a charging system for the battery, and to charge the battery you actually have to have a special plug-in attachment that charges it right here through the start button. So I did contact the owner, or previous owner of this, and asked if he had the charger, and he said no, he did not, and was just using it with the pull cord, which is most likely where I'm heading with this thing as well. I looked up a replacement battery. It's about $40 here in Canada, and the replacement cable, for charging cable, is also $40 to $50. So it's just not economically feasible for me if I'm going to sell this item to put in the 90 bucks, because I just won't get that money back out of it. I did test the electrical system for the starter, the electric start. What I did was I hooked up these connections to the battery, and then actually hooked up my battery charger to that same system as well. And this electric start works. Everything works. The push button works. The problem is the two missing elements. So that's where I'm at with that, guys. I was thinking maybe I could rig up something with some external cord that I could just plug into 120, but then I'd need some sort of inverter to change it from 120 AC to 12 volt DC for this to work. So I don't think I'm going to go to that extent with it, guys. What I'm going to do is just most likely just sell it without, and if the next owner wants to replace those parts, they can do that. Alright, so next thing I do is take off this carburetor. Now there's a choke vane that's attached to this choke arm over here, which heats up and then activates and deactivates the choke, which is connected right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this spring right here first. Pretty simple. And I'm going to keep that because these things, if you're not careful, will fly across the lawn and you'll never find them again. Once again, ask me how I know that. So I got a 1/4 inch here, and you got to be careful with this 1/4 inch bolt. It's attached to like a sort of just like a little add-on piece to the carburetor, and I've snapped those off before, so you got to be very careful. So I'm just gonna take it off with a hand tool here, and I'll put it back on with a hand tool. If you snap that off, you're basically buying a new carburetor. Alright, so I'll take that off the air vane. Now there's a spring right here as well, and this guy here's your spring right here for your governor. So to get this guy off, you kind of have to bend the part of that spring, open that up, and then go ahead and push that off. And this guy I'll just leave. Next thing, 2 3/8 bolts for holding the carburetor on. Now the carburetor should just come off, so that's good. Now on the back side of the carburetor, sometimes this O-ring stays in the carburetor, sometimes it stays on the intake tube. So I'll just put that back on the intake tube for safekeeping. And then there's a little Z-bend here, so you kind of have to push it down and then turn it 90 degrees. And you will see a little bit of residual fuel spill out. So it's nice to have a rag kicking around. And there's your carburetor. So I'm going to clean this off, and we'll put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we'll come back. I'll link to a video where I clean one of these Briggs & Stratton style carburetors. I'll put a link up there in the top right corner. You can click on that, and that'll take you to a video where I show you how to clean this carburetor. Alright guys, I got the carburetor back together. As you can see, it's way cleaner now. It almost looks new with the technique that I use. So, carburetor's back on. All the springs, choke is back on. That's all good. So next step is we're going to start putting all of our covers and everything back on. So we'll put the starter recoil on. I have lubed up the starter recoil, and if you guys want to know how I do that, I'll put a link in the top right for a link to the video on how to lubricate one of these starter recoils. Guys, she does fire up and run. So next thing I'm going to do is just button her up here. I'm going to let it run for a little while, change the oil. I do have a video on how to change the oil on your lawnmower. If you want, you can click up on the iCard in the top right there now, and that'll take you to that video. When she's all cleaned up here and finished up, ready for sale, I'll come back and show you the final product. Hey guys, I got the Craftsman all finished up here. She's in really nice shape. Very little rust on the machine, and she cleaned up real well. I did have a cover for this guy. It shows 675 series, but it's actually a 725 series. They pretty much have the same covers. I think the other one would have been black though, but no difference. The only issue this thing has is, well, the electric start, as I said, doesn't work because the battery sucks. It's dead, and it's missing a hubcap, but that doesn't much matter. But she cleaned up real nice, and this is going to be a nice mower for somebody. Now I just got to figure out what it's worth, because I think these things go with the electric start working brand new for about $500–600. So I'm thinking a couple $100 anyways. Not too bad for maybe 5–6 hours of work. And I got it for free. I had to put a new blade, new spark plug, new air filter, and new air filter gasket. So my total cost is probably going to be somewhere in the $25–30 range. So sometimes you can score this stuff, guys. People just getting rid of stuff. Doesn't work. You can fix it up and make yourself a few bucks. So if you guys liked the content and maybe learned a thing or two, please hit the subscribe button. Definitely helps me out on the channel. And until next time, guys, take care.